Something truly unthinkable is unfolding at Caesar's Palace. The most legendary casino in all of Vegas is losing customers at such a terrifying rate that those in the know are calling it a full-blown death spiral. Just picture this. Last Saturday at 9 in the evening, the legendary Baccarat room was a ghost town, with more dealers just standing there than actual players at the tables. The Forum Shops, which once held the title of America's highest-grossing mall, now feels like it's been hit by a devastating recession. Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen has tables available for walk-ins on weekends. The Coliseum is literally hiding empty seats behind giant curtains because they just can't sell the tickets. I mean, this is the very place that hosted legends like Sinatra and Ali, a palace where every president since Nixon has walked these halls, and it's all crumbling right before our very eyes. But here's the part that should send a shiver down the spine of anyone who loves this city. Because when an empire like Caesar's Palace falls, it never, ever falls alone. The story I'm about to tell you goes so much deeper than just one casino's bad luck. Let's start with number 10, the Empire's Hollow Crown. Just take a walk with me through Caesar's Palace on what's supposed to be a buzzing Saturday night, and you can feel it in your bones almost instantly. Something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. That electrifying buzz, that feeling that you had just stepped into the absolute center of the universe is just gone. Take the Baccarat room, a space where high rollers from Asia would once bet millions of dollars as huge crowds gathered just to watch the spectacle. But now, it's a place where the dealers outnumber the players. Tables that you used to have to book in advance now sit completely empty, with $25 minimums practically pleading for some action that just never arrives. The main casino floor tells an even more chilling tale. Entire rows of slot machines are dark, completely powered down just to save a few bucks on the electric bill. The pit bosses, who should be orchestrating the beautiful chaos of a casino floor, are now just standing around, bored, scrolling through their phones. They're overseeing what can only be described as ghost towns of empty blackjack tables. And the famous sports book, the one they just spent $12 million renovating only 5 years ago, it consistently has more staff working than people actually placing bets. And I'm talking even during the peak of NFL Sundays. One dealer, who obviously wanted to remain anonymous, put it better than I ever could. This place used to hum with energy. Now, he said, it feels like we're just punching the clock in a mausoleum with slot machines. And then there's the Coliseum, Caesar's 4,300-seat crown jewel, the very stage that hosted Celine Dion's iconic residency, now struggles to fill even half its seats, and that's with A-list talent on the marquee. Sure, Adele's residency is a hit, but that's the exception. Other massive shows are struggling to sell tickets even when they're slashed by 50%. I mean, Rod Stewart recently performed to a venue so barren, they had to close off whole sections with curtains. And for Jerry Seinfeld's latest shows, they had to give away so many free tickets just to fill seats because they literally couldn't sell them at any price. This is a venue that used to command $500 a ticket minimum. Now, they're just giving them away to avoid the sheer embarrassment of an empty house. And the Forum Shops, which we'll get back to in more detail, are now so quiet you can hear the lonely echo of the few tourists still wandering its halls. Even the famous spiral escalator, that architectural marvel that used to shuttle thousands of shoppers every single day, it now sits motionless and empty for most of the day. Remember those animatronic shows that were a staple for decades? They were switched off for maintenance 6 months ago, and surprise, they've never been turned back on. The most iconic parts of the casino now feel completely abandoned. The Garden of the Gods pool oasis is only partially open, with huge areas just closed off for good. We're talking about 7 pools that should be absolutely crammed with party people, but instead, they're practically deserted, save for a few confused hotel guests who are probably wondering where on earth everybody is. Make no mistake, this isn't just a slow season or a normal Vegas dip. What we are witnessing is a collapse, and it's happening in real time. And once you get a glimpse of the financial horror story playing out behind the scenes, all of this emptiness starts to make a terrifying kind of sense. Which brings us to number 9, the debt monster that's eating Caesar's alive. You see, Caesar's Entertainment is hiding a secret, one that would send any guest running for the doors if they knew the truth. The company is literally drowning in $9 billion of debt, a debt that cost them almost $1 billion every year just in interest payments alone. So think about this. Every single dollar you hand over at Caesar's Palace isn't going towards making your stay better. It's being used as a bandage to stop a complete and total financial collapse. And that sheer desperation is what's rotting this legendary property from the inside out. This whole catastrophe really kicked off with the 2020 acquisition by El Dorado, a $17.3 billion deal that was supposed to forge the biggest casino company in America. But instead of creating a titan, it unleashed a debt monster that has to be fed constantly. Get this, Caesars is now burning through $2.5 million every single day just on interest. That's not for new upgrades, not for paying staff a decent wage, not for fixing things. It's just to service the debt. That's the kind of money that could be used to completely renovate entire hotel towers, to breathe life back into the forum shops, or to simply fix the 1,001 things that are breaking down every day. And the cost-cutting measures they've put in place, they read less like a business plan and more like a corporate suicide note. Housekeeping has been slashed from a daily service to once every 3 days, and that's even for people paying $800 a night for a suite. They've cut the engineering staff by 40%, which is why elevators stay out of order for weeks at a time. And the air conditioning system in the Augustus Tower, it's been on the fritz since 2021, and it's not getting fixed because apparently a $15 million repair bill is considered, quote, non-essential. So now you have guests sharing horror stories about waiting 45 agonizing minutes for elevators that frankly should be taken out of service. They describe walking through hallways with carpets so stained they haven't been touched since 2008 and finding mold festering in bathrooms that no one will even acknowledge. But this is where the story takes a truly insidious turn. See, on paper, Caesars Entertainment looks wildly profitable, generating nearly $11 billion in revenue. The catch? Every single penny of that profit gets funneled directly into servicing their massive debt, leaving absolutely nothing for the properties themselves. This all came to light when internal documents were leaked to gaming industry analysts, revealing a complete nightmare scenario playing out behind the scenes. Caesars Palace right now needs $400 million in immediate repairs and renovations just to hang on to a 3-star quality rating. The company's budget for this? A pathetic, almost insulting $35 million. The iconic Palace Tower needs a complete $200 million gut renovation. The start date for that project has been postponed indefinitely. And the financial shell game, believe it or not, gets even worse. Caesars sold the very land underneath Caesars Palace to its own real estate investment company, and now leases it back for $165 million every single year. They are literally paying rent on their own property. This adds yet another crushing layer of costs that makes any meaningful investment in the hotel impossible. It's so bad, credit rating agencies have downgraded Caesars bonds to barely above junk status. The numbers don't lie, and the math is inescapable. On its current trajectory, Caesars Entertainment will either have to start selling off properties or face bankruptcy within just 3 years. And Caesars Palace, despite its legendary status, might just be the first to go on the auction block. Which brings us to number 8, the Forum Shops apocalypse. There was a time when the Forum Shops at Caesars was the undisputed king of American retail, pulling in millions more per square foot than Rodeo Drive, Fifth Avenue, or any other mall in existence. This was where celebrities came to shop. Tourists would plan entire vacations around a visit. That famous artificial sky, cycling from a perfect dawn to a beautiful dusk, was seen as completely revolutionary. Today, that same sky looks down upon a retail graveyard, a scene that would make any investor weep. If you walk through those once bustling Roman streets now, you can just count the casualties. Versace's flagship store? Gone, leaving 8,000 square feet of prime retail space shrouded in black fabric. Valentino looks like it fled in the dead of night. Their windows are now just papered over with cheap, exciting new retailer coming soon signs. Signs that have been fading for the last 18 months. Balenciaga has downsized its store by 60%. Even the mainstream stores like Banana Republic and The Gap couldn't survive the rot. They abandoned ship long ago for greener pastures. The vacancy rate has now skyrocketed to a catastrophic 35%. It has transformed what was once a global retail paradise into a depressing monument to corporate decline. And this death spiral began the moment Caesars decided to stop investing in its own property. While Steve Wynn was busy building a $500 million retail expansion and Resorts World opened with brand new cutting-edge shopping, Caesars simply let the Forum shops decay. The famous talking statues broke down and were just left broken. The dazzling fountains now run at half capacity just to save money on maintenance. The air conditioning system struggles to keep up. It makes shopping there in the summer completely unbearable. Retailers, paying an astronomical $500 per square foot in rent, watched their sales utterly crater as foot traffic vanished into thin air. Eventually, they just fled rather than dare to renew their leases. And the desperation is palpable when you see the new tenants filling the voids left behind by these luxury titans. There's now a CBD store where Burberry used to be. A discount luggage shop sits in the former Ted Baker location. You'll even find pop-up Halloween stores in spaces that were once world-class destination retail. The Cheesecake Factory and Joe's Seafood, once flanked by the pinnacle of luxury shopping, now serve as the sad anchors for a mall that feels more like a forgotten suburban strip center than a premier Vegas destination. Even the few luxury stores clinging to life are operating differently. Louis Vuitton and Gucci have cut their hours way back, closing at 9 p.m. instead of the traditional midnight. Hermes now requires appointments to get in, not because of overwhelming demand, but because they simply don't want to pay to staff an empty store. And then there's the Apple Store. This was once the Forum Shop's highest grossing location west of the Mississippi. It recently reported a 40% sales decline year over year. When even Apple cannot make money in your mall, you're not just in trouble, you're finished. The collapse of the Forum Shops is now dragging down everything around it, creating a vortex of failure that not even the great Gordon Ramsay can escape. Number 7, when Gordon Ramsay can't fill tables. Now, Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen at Caesars Palace should be one of the most impossible reservations to score in town. It's based on one of the biggest shows on television, with a celebrity chef who has the nerve to command $235 for a beef Wellington. This restaurant was engineered from the ground up to print money. And yet, on a recent Saturday at 8 p.m., the absolute prime dinner hour in Las Vegas, you could walk right in without a reservation and be seated on the spot. You walk up and the hostess doesn't even bother with the pretense of checking the system. She just snags some menus and asks, booth or table? This restaurant disaster is spreading through Caesars Palace like some kind of culinary plague. Take Beijing Noodle number 9, a place once so exclusive you needed a casino host on speed dial just to get a table. Now they have promoters on the sidewalk, practically begging people to come in, flashing 30% discounts. Then there's Pronto by Giada, the celebrity chef's casual Italian spot, which is rumored to serve more meals to employees using their food credits than to actual paying customers. And what about Peter Luger Steakhouse, the only location of that legendary Brooklyn establishment you can find outside of New York? It regularly operates at a bleak 25% capacity. Meanwhile, their original location has a 3-month waiting list. But nothing, and I mean nothing, symbolizes this catastrophic collapse quite like the Bacchanal buffet. Once crowned America's best buffet by USA Today, this $17 million showcase with 9 kitchens and 500 dishes is now only open from Thursday to Monday. That's right, it's closed 3 days a week just to slash costs. The $79 dinner price is still there, but the quality has completely fallen off a cliff. The famous king crab legs have vanished, replaced by cheap snow crab. The prime rib station is only open for limited hours, and those incredible made-to-order soufflés that used to scream luxury, they're gone, replaced by sad, pre-made desserts sitting under heat lamps. Even when it is open, entire sections are just roped off, with stations that once served Brazilian churrasco or fresh sushi now sitting dark and completely empty. The food court story is somehow even sadder. Johnny Rockets is closed down. Subway is shuttered. The pizza place is barely hanging on, operating only from noon to 8 p.m. Employees have said they're throwing away more food than they actually serve because the foot traffic is so low it can't even support basic fast food operations. One food service manager confessed they've slashed food orders by 60% compared to 2019 and are still dealing with massive amounts of waste. The restaurants that are left seem to be surviving on old momentum and a prayer, not on actual business. When world-famous chefs with massive marketing machines behind them can't fill tables in Las Vegas, you know something is fundamentally broken. And for the guests who do still dare to book rooms at Caesars Palace, well, what they find behind those doors would absolutely horrify anyone who remembers this property in its glory days. Number 6. The room catastrophe. Here's something you won't hear them advertise. Caesar's Palace has 3,960 rooms across 6 towers, and according to internal maintenance reports, at least 1 in every 200 of them shouldn't be occupied by anyone. And I'm not talking about minor issues like dated decor or worn-out carpets. I'm talking about legitimate health hazards, serious safety violations, and conditions that would get a Motel 6 shut down in a heartbeat. Yet, this is all happening at a supposed luxury resort that has the audacity to charge $400 a night. Take the Julius Tower, the property's original building from back in 1966. It has become practically uninhabitable for anyone with any standards at all. Guests report seeing black mold on bathroom ceilings and finding air conditioning units that clearly haven't been serviced since before COVID. They talk about carpets so deeply stained they look like a crime scene. The elevators are said to break down multiple times a week, sometimes trapping guests inside for hours. One review on TripAdvisor actually included photos of mushrooms, real, live mushrooms growing out of the bathroom grout. The entire tower needs a complete gut renovation, estimated to cost $300 million. And Caesar's response? They just discount the rooms to $89 and pray that desperate tourists won't complain too loud. Then you have the Forum Tower, built in 1979, which is facing its own catastrophic infrastructure failure. The plumbing system there just randomly gives out, flooding rooms and forcing guests into emergency relocations. Its electrical system can't handle modern technology. Guests report that the power goes out just from plugging in a phone charger. The windows leak when it rains. A rare event in Vegas, sure, but it still happens. This creates water damage that housekeeping tries to solve with towels instead of actual repairs. Can you imagine showing up to find your $350 room is flooded, moldy, or has no working air conditioning in 115-degree heat? You're not offered a refund, just a move to an equally nightmarish room in another tower. And it's not just the old ones. Even the premium Augustus and Octavius towers, which are marketed as the height of luxury, are suffering from so much deferred maintenance that any pretense of quality has become a complete joke. Elevators in the Augustus Tower are operating at just 40% capacity, leading to waits that can exceed 30 minutes during peak hours. The pool view rooms in the Octavius Tower have windows so clouded with mineral deposits from years of neglect that you can barely see outside. And that much-hyped renovation of the Palace Tower rooms in 2018? It turns out they used the cheapest possible materials they could get their hands on. We're talking about furniture that is literally falling apart, bathroom fixtures that were breaking within months, and televisions from 2015 that were being installed and passed off as upgraded amenities. The human impact of all this is just devastating. You have families who saved for years to experience a Caesar's Palace vacation, only to arrive and find conditions that are far worse than any budget motel. Can you believe it? The big shot business travelers, the ones who wouldn't dream of booking a conference anywhere but Caesars, are now running for the hills. And the review scores? They've absolutely tanked, cratering to a dismal 3.1 stars. You see it plastered across all the major platforms, reviews screaming about disgusting rooms and what sound like legitimate health hazards. But as bad as that is, it's not even the worst of it. The real gut punch, the thing that truly shattered Caesar's reputation, was how they turned their backs on the very people who built their empire. And that brings us to number 5, the Great Rewards Program Betrayal. You have to understand, Caesar's Rewards wasn't just a program, it was the gold standard, the absolute pinnacle of casino loyalty. People poured years, I mean literally decades of their lives into climbing the ladder to Diamond and the coveted 7 stars status. Levels that actually meant you were somebody. We're talking free rooms, dinner credits, no resort fees, skipping the long lines with priority check-in, and above all else, you got respect. Then El Dorado took over, and in less than 2 years, they managed to tear down an empire that took 40 years to build. The gutting started quietly, almost like they hoped no one would notice. Suddenly, Diamond members, the ones who always got those automatic room upgrades, were being shoved into standard rooms unless they coughed up more cash. That $100 annual dinner credit, it was slashed to $50, and then poof, it vanished completely. Free parking, a sacred perk for Diamond members since the program began, was suddenly tied to a validation system that, surprise, surprise, mysteriously never seemed to work. Then they axed the dedicated diamond check-in lines, forcing their most loyal patrons to stand in line with tourists who just booked the cheapest deal on Expedia. The message couldn't have been clearer. Your loyalty means absolutely nothing to us now. But the ultimate knife in the back? That came down to how they started calculating the comps. Imagine players who'd earned free rooms and meals for decades suddenly watching their offers evaporate into thin air. Literally overnight, the new algorithm was adjusted to only care about your most recent play, completely ignoring years and years of steadfast loyalty. It got so bad that a player gambling $50,000 a year for 20 years